Chosen one, why have you survived what should have killed you? Why did that accident miss you by seconds? Why are you still breathing when the statistics said you shouldn't be? Listen to me carefully. This is not luck. This is not coincidence. This is the fingerprint of divine protection over a life that carries something hell desperately wants to destroy. Chosen one, this is not an accident. Heaven itself has paused time, silenced the chaos of your scrolling, and set this very moment apart just for you. Something ancient and eternal has been stirring in your spirit lately, hasn't it? That restlessness, that knowing, that fire you can't quite name but can't ignore. You are standing on an invisible battlefield where unseen wars rage every second of every day. While others walk carelessly through life, you carry a hidden seal, a divine mark that both heaven recognizes and hell fears. That's why your life has never been easy. That's why battles found you even when you weren't looking for them. Think about it. Every rejection that cut deep, every betrayal that left you bleeding, every night you cried out wondering if God had forgotten your address. None of it was random. Every single trial was strategic, not punishment, but preparation. You were being forged in fire because ordinary believers cannot carry what you were born to carry. Before we go deeper into this sacred mystery, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But here's what will shock you to your core. You are not just another believer trying to make it through. You are one of God's end-time warriors, marked before your first breath with power that only a chosen few across history have ever carried. If this word is already stirring something deep inside you, if your spirit is trembling with recognition right now, type 777 inch the comments. Let it be a prophetic declaration over your life. I am sealed by God. Don't just type it casually. Declare it as a covenant between your soul and heaven. Stay with me until the very end, because the revelation you've been waiting for your entire life is hidden in these final moments. By the time this message ends, you'll understand why every scar, every loss, every moment you felt forgotten was actually God preparing you for the battle only His end-time warriors can fight. The seal is real, the power is yours, and your awakening begins now. Why do you feel like a stranger in your own family? Why have you carried burdens that others your age seem to walk past without noticing? Why does your heart ache for things you can't even name? Dear chosen one, you've been marked, not cursed, marked. There's a difference that will change everything once you understand it. From your earliest memories, you knew something was different about you. While other children played carelessly in the sunlight, you walked with shadows whispering your name. In elementary school, when everyone else seemed to fit in effortlessly, you sat alone at lunch tables, watching, wondering why connection felt so elusive. Your mother called you sensitive. Your teachers said you were too intense. Your siblings rolled their eyes when you asked the big questions that kept you awake at night. But what if I told you that everything they called weakness was actually heaven's fingerprint on your soul? You see, chosen one, you've never been normal because normal was never your assignment. While others could ignore the weight of eternity pressing down on their hearts, you felt it every single day. When your friends worried about Friday night plans, you worried about forever. When they chased temporary pleasures, something deep inside you yearned for the eternal. That ache you've carried your whole life, that's not depression, that's recognition. Your spirit recognizing it doesn't belong to this world. Look at your life now, 70, 80, maybe 90 years of walking through valleys that should have destroyed you. The divorce that nearly broke your heart into 1,000 pieces. The friends who passed on, one by one, until your phone stopped ringing. The children who moved away and forgot to call. The body that betrays you with aches and limitations you never imagined. They thought you were fragile. The doctors, the family members who spoke about you in hushed tones, the church folks who patted your hand and said, "Bless your heart." They all thought you were delicate, breakable, barely holding on. But look at you, still here, still standing, still breathing after everything hell threw at you. That's not accident, that's armor, divine armor that was placed on you before your first breath, because heaven knew what battles you'd face. The psalmist understood this when he wrote, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." You've walked through valleys that would have consumed others. You've survived shadows that swallowed stronger people whole. But you're still here because the mark on your life is unbreakable. Remember that heart attack at 67? The doctors said it was massive. They couldn't explain why you walked out of that hospital when others with half the damage didn't make it. Remember that car accident that totaled your vehicle but left you with barely a scratch? Remember that diagnosis they said was terminal, but here you are, years later, still defying their predictions. That wasn't luck, dear one. That was the seal of God preserving what He planted in you. You've been wondering why your life has been so hard, why other people your age seem to glide through their golden years while you've faced storm after storm. Here's the shocking truth that will revolutionize everything. Your struggles weren't punishment for some hidden sin. They weren't evidence that God forgot about you or stopped loving you. Your battles were boot camp. Your trials were training. Your pain was preparation for an assignment so significant that heaven had to make sure you were unbreakable before they could trust you with it. Every tear you've cried in secret has been collected in heaven's bottles. Every night you've lain awake wrestling with pain that had no name, angels were taking notes. Every moment you wanted to give up, but chose to take one more breath, one more step, one more day, that was the mark of God, proving itself indestructible within you. You know what terrifies the enemy about you? It's not that you're perfect, it's that you're proven. You've been tested by fire and came out gold. You've been pressurized by circumstances that crush ordinary people, and you emerged as a diamond. You've been through hell and back, and you still believe in heaven. That makes you dangerous to darkness. The loneliness you felt wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. God had to separate you from the crowd, because crowd pleasers can't carry the weight of what He's about to place on your shoulders. The rejection you've experienced wasn't because you were unworthy, it was because you were too worthy for the shallow connections that satisfy others. You've been set apart, not set aside, chosen, not cursed, marked for greatness, not misery. Every scar on your heart tells a story of survival. Every line on your face is a map of battles won. Every grey hair is a trophy, proving that what was meant to kill you only made you stronger. If you know you've been through battles that others could never survive, if you recognize the mark of heaven in the very struggles that should have destroyed you, then declare it right now. Comment, "I am chosen." Let heaven hear your voice acknowledging what hell has always feared. You are not ordinary, you are not forgotten, and you are not finished. The mark on your life is about to be revealed to a world that desperately needs to see what happens when heaven's chosen ones finally remember who they are. Dear chosen one, the world has no idea of the wars you fought behind closed doors. They saw your smile at Sunday service, but they never saw the 3 a.m. battles when despair whispered louder than hope. They saw your strength when you helped others carry their burdens, but they never saw the nights you collapsed under the weight of your own. They saw you show up, week after week, year after year, but they never saw the mornings you had to crawl out of bed just to face another day. You fought battles in hospital corridors while others slept peacefully. You fought battles in empty houses after the funeral guests went home. You fought battles in your mind when the bills piled higher than your faith. You fought battles in your heart when your own children turned their backs on everything you taught them, but heaven saw every single one. Listen to me carefully. Those weren't random struggles. Those weren't accidents of a broken world. Those were strategic attacks against someone hell recognized as dangerous. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty threats. He reserves his fiercest assaults for those carrying the most fire. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1-5. Those words weren't written about ancient prophets alone. They echo over your life right now. You were marked for battle before your first breath, chosen for warfare before your first heartbeat. Think about Joseph, 17 years old with dreams of greatness, only to be thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold like cattle, falsely accused, forgotten in prison for years. But every betrayal was positioning him, every injustice was preparing him, every dark night was forging the character he'd need to save nations. Your pain has been your blacksmith's fire, dear one. Each blow of the hammer wasn't meant to destroy you, it was shaping you into steel. While others lived in comfort, you were being forged in flames, because ordinary metal cannot withstand what you were destined to carry. Consider Harriet Tubman, born into the brutality of slavery, beaten until her skull was fractured. But those very wounds opened her spiritual eyes to visions from God. The Underground Railroad wasn't built by someone who'd lived an easy life. It was carved out by a woman whose scars had become her spiritual armor. Picture that Vietnam veteran who still wakes up some nights, decades later, but who carries a strength in his eyes that younger men respect without understanding why. His battles in the jungle weren't the end of his story, they were the beginning of his authority. Your hidden battles weren't evidence of God's absence, they were proof of his intention. Every sleepless night when you wrestled with demons no one else could see, that was spiritual boot camp. Every tear that fell in silence, that was liquid gold being refined in heaven's furnace. Every moment you wanted to quit, but somehow found the strength to take one more step, that was divine steel being forged in your backbone. You've been wondering why life hit you so hard while others seem to glide through untouched. Here's the shocking truth. They weren't chosen to carry what you carry. They weren't marked to bear the weight of intercession for generations. They weren't called to stand in the gap when hell unleashed its fury. But you were. Your scars are not evidence of defeat, they are medals of survival, proof that you are forged for war. Each one testifies that weapons were formed against you, but could not prosper. Each mark on your soul declares that though you were pressed on every side, you were not crushed. Though struck down, you were not destroyed. The attacks intensified because hell saw something in you that even you didn't recognize yet. They saw an end-time warrior being prepared. They saw someone who would one day speak with authority born from the furnace. They saw a voice that would carry weight because it had been tested by fire. Right now, there's someone watching this who's hanging by a thread. Someone who thinks their battles have broken them beyond repair. Someone who believes their pain disqualifies them from God's purpose. Don't keep this word to yourself. Someone else is drowning in the same storms you survived. Share this message. Let them know they're not fighting alone. Your hidden battles weren't punishment, chosen one. They were preparation. Every wound became a window of compassion. Every struggle became a bridge to reach others trapped in the same darkness. Every night you survived became proof to someone else that they could survive theirs too. But here's what will revolutionize everything you thought you knew about your pain. Those battles didn't just happen to you, they happened through you. While you were fighting for your own survival, you were interceding for others who couldn't fight for themselves. Your tears watered ground where miracles would later bloom. The question burning in heaven right now is this. Will you finally understand that your warfare was actually your training, that your scars are your credentials, that your survival makes you qualified to lead others through the very hell you escaped? Because, chosen one, your hidden battles are about to become your visible victories. Chosen one, there is something resting upon your shoulders right now that you can feel but cannot see. Something that makes your presence shift atmospheres before you even speak a word. Something that causes people to either draw close to you or step back in fear, and they can't explain why. It is the mantle of fire. This is not fabric, beloved. This is not some ceremonial garment hanging in a religious closet. This mantle is pure fire, invisible to human eyes but unmistakable in the realm of the spirit. It burns without consuming you because you were forged to carry it. Every trial, every sleepless night, Every moment you thought would break you was actually preparing your spiritual frame to bear this weight of glory. Think of a soldier's uniform. When someone sees those stripes, those insignias, they don't just see cloth, they see authority, they see representation. They see someone who fights for something greater than themselves. Your mantle works the same way. When you walk into a room, the demonic realm doesn't see your age, your wrinkles, your tired bones. They see the fire of heaven draped across your shoulders, and they tremble. But here's what's breaking my heart tonight. Too many of you have been living like you're wearing ordinary clothes when heaven has dressed you in supernatural authority. The voice of the Almighty thundered through Moses in Exodus 19:6. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Do you hear that? Not servants, not followers, priests, a holy nation. That means you don't just attend church, you are the church. You don't just pray prayers, your very breath is intercession. You don't just read about miracles, you carry the power to perform them. This mantle comes with fire, but it also comes with cost. And this is where most believers fail to understand the weight of what they carry. Others can live carelessly, but you cannot. Others can compromise their values when it's convenient, but you cannot. Others can walk away from their calling when it gets difficult, but you cannot. Others can speak carelessly, live loosely, love conditionally, but you cannot. Why? Because the mantle will not let you. You've felt it, haven't you? That inner tension when you try to blend in with the crowd. That spiritual nausea when you attempt to lower your standards. That restlessness when you try to live like everyone else. That's not your conscience bothering you. That's the fire of God refusing to be quenched by compromise. Others may laugh at sin, but you cannot. The fire burns too hot. Others may chase after the world's approval, but you cannot. The mantle is too heavy. Others may turn back when the cost gets high, but you cannot. The calling is too sacred. And here's the revelation that will shatter everything you thought you knew about your struggles. Every attack you've faced, every betrayal that left you bleeding, every financial crisis that brought you to your knees, every health scare that made you question everything, none of it was random. Hell has been targeting you specifically because they can see what's on your shoulders. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty vessels. He doesn't send his fiercest demons after powerless people. But you've been in his crosshairs since the day you were born, because he knows that when you fully step into the authority of your mantle, entire regions will shift. That depression that tried to destroy you in your 40s, that was a targeted strike against your mantle. That divorce that nearly broke you, strategic warfare against your calling. That business that failed just when success seemed guaranteed. Hell trying to convince you that you don't carry divine favor. But here's what the enemy never counted on. Every attack only made the fire burn hotter. You didn't break. You bent, but you didn't break. You stumbled, but you didn't fall. You wept, but you didn't quit. And every time you should have been destroyed but survived instead, the mantle grew heavier with authority. Do you understand what this means? Your scars aren't evidence of your weakness, they're proof of your worth. Hell doesn't fight this hard to keep down someone who doesn't matter. The intensity of your warfare has always been the measure of your destiny. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, that mantle is getting heavier. Can you feel it? That's not burden, that's activation. That's heaven saying, the training is over, the commissioning has begun. You are not just surviving anymore, chosen one. You are not just getting by, making do, hoping things get better. You are stepping into a dimension of spiritual authority that most believers will never experience because most believers will never pay the price you've paid. The mantle of fire is proof that you are part of a royal priesthood rising in these last days. While others sleep in spiritual comfort, you burn with holy purpose. While others chase temporary pleasures, you carry eternal responsibility. But with this mantle comes a choice that will determine everything about your future. Will you finally stop shrinking back from what God has placed on you? Will you stop apologizing for the fire that makes others uncomfortable? Will you embrace the weight of this divine covering and walk in the full measure of what heaven has invested in you? If you receive this mantle today, if you're ready to stop living beneath your calling and start walking in your authority, type 444 right now. Don't just type numbers. Declare with your fingers what your spirit already knows. I will not be shaken. Because, beloved, the mantle is not optional. It's your inheritance. It's your identity. It's your calling. And the world is waiting to see what happens when someone finally wears it without apology. The fire is real, the authority is yours, and nothing in hell can strip you of what heaven has placed upon your shoulders. But are you ready to stop hiding the mantle and start wearing it with the boldness of one who knows they fight for the King of Kings? Dear chosen one, I need to ask you something that might cut straight to your heart. How many tears have you cried in the darkness when no one was watching? How many nights have you wept into your pillow, wondering if anyone, even God, saw your breaking? You've been ashamed of those tears, haven't you? You've been told that crying shows weakness, that faith should make you strong, that believers should rejoice always. But what if everything they told you about your tears was a lie? What if I told you that every tear you've shed has been collected, treasured, and transformed into something so powerful that hell itself trembles at their mention? Listen to these ancient words from Psalm 56:8. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. Did you hear that? Not some of your tears, not just the pretty ones shed in church. Every single drop. The tears you cried when your husband took his last breath. The tears that fell when you buried your child. The tears that stained the flag they handed you at your son's military funeral. The tears you've hidden because you thought they made you look weak. God didn't just notice them. He collected them. He bottled them. He recorded them like precious jewels in his eternal ledger. But here's the mystery that will shatter everything you thought you knew about sorrow. Your tears were never wasted water. They were liquid prayers. Every drop that fell from your eyes was forged into arrows in heaven's arsenal. Every sob that shook your body was warfare disguised as weeping. I'm talking to you, dear widow, sitting alone in that house that still echoes with his voice. Those tears you cried at 3 a.m. when the loneliness felt like it would suffocate you, they weren't signs of defeat. They were declarations of war against the spirit of despair trying to claim your soul. I'm speaking to you, mother who buried her baby. Those tears that wouldn't stop flowing, that made people uncomfortable at the grocery store. They weren't weakness. They were prophetic intercession for every other parent walking through that same valley of shadows. I'm calling out to you, veteran who came home but left your brothers on that foreign soil. Those tears you've been choking back for decades because warriors aren't supposed to cry. They weren't dishonor to their memory. They were liquid medals of honor, proving that love runs deeper than death. You see, the enemy has been running a con game on God's people for generations. He convinced you that tears equal failure, that if you really trusted God, you wouldn't weep. That strong faith means dry eyes. But that's the opposite of truth. Your tears have been your secret weapon all along. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, the Son of God, knowing he would rise again, still wept with such intensity that his sweat became drops of blood. Was that weakness? Was that lack of faith? No. That was the most powerful moment in human history, because those tears released the very salvation of mankind. Every tear you've cried over injustice has moved the hand of God toward justice. Every tear you've shed over your prodigal children has activated angelic intervention in their lives. Every tear that fell when you felt forgotten has been stored as evidence that will one day vindicate your faithfulness. But here's what's going to shock you. The tears you thought were your breaking point were actually your weapons being loaded. Hell doesn't fear your happiness. Darkness isn't threatened by your comfort. But when you weep and still worship, when you cry and still choose to trust, that combination creates a spiritual frequency that demons cannot withstand. Your tears have been saying what your lips couldn't speak. Though you slay me, yet will I trust you. And every time you wept but didn't walk away from God, you won a battle in the spirit realm that you didn't even know was being fought. The tears were never your weakness, chosen one. They were your warfare. And now that you know the truth about what you've been carrying, the question that will determine your destiny is this: what will you do with the spiritual authority that those tears have earned you? Dear one, do you feel it? That strange stirring deep in your chest that won't let you rest. That restlessness that keeps you awake at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, knowing something monumental is shifting but unable to name it. You've been telling yourself it's just age, just worry, just the weight of living 70, 80, maybe 90 years on this earth. But what if I told you that what you're feeling isn't exhaustion, it's activation? What if that restlessness isn't your body breaking down, but your spirit breaking through? Listen carefully, chosen one. Deep beneath the surface of your ordinary life, something extraordinary has been building pressure for decades. Like a volcano that has slept for generations, gathering molten power in its hidden chambers, the giant within you has been accumulating divine strength in the secret places of your soul. Think about Mount St. Helens. For 123 years it sat silent, peaceful, giving no hint of the explosive power building beneath its surface. Tourists climbed it, children played on its slopes. Everyone assumed it was just another mountain. Then on May 18th, 1980, in one catastrophic moment, it released the energy of 24 megatons, 1,600 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that fell on Hiroshima. The eruption was so violent it could be heard 200 miles away. The world learned that day that dormant doesn't mean dead, it means loaded. That's you right now. You've been dormant, but you've never been dead. Every disappointment that should have broken you only added pressure to the chamber. Every betrayal that should have destroyed you only increased the heat. Every loss that should have finished you only built the force that's about to be released. Why do you think your life has felt so restless lately? Why can't you find peace in the same routines that used to comfort you? Because heaven refuses to let you sleep through your destiny. But here's what breaks my heart: you've been apologizing for the very thing that qualifies you. You look at your 75 years and see decline. God looks at your 75 years and sees preparation. You see your mistakes and call them failures. Heaven sees your mistakes and calls them training. You see your scars and feel shame. The Almighty sees your scars and declares them credentials. Every tear you've cried wasn't weakness. It was the water that kept the soil of your heart soft for this moment. Every night you felt forgotten wasn't abandonment, it was incubation. Every time you whispered, "God, why me?" wasn't doubt, it was the cry of a warrior being forged in fire. The prophet Isaiah heard the voice of the Lord thunder these words: "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Isaiah 60:1. Do you hear that? Your light hasn't been dimming with age, it's been concentrating, like sunlight focused through a magnifying glass until it becomes so intense it starts fires. Your years of faithfulness have been focusing heaven's power within you until you've become dangerous to darkness. But the enemy has been whispering lies, hasn't he? You're too old, your time has passed, you should be winding down, not gearing up. Those whispers aren't wisdom, they're warfare. Satan knows something about you that you're just beginning to remember. He knows that when seasoned saints finally awaken to their authority, entire regions shift. When warriors with grey hair stop apologizing and start declaring, hell trembles. Look at Moses, 80 years old, when God called him to confront Pharaoh. 80. When the world would have put him in a retirement home, heaven put a staff of power in his hand. Look at Caleb, 85 years old, when he said, "Give me this mountain, not give me a rocking chair. Not give me peace and quiet. Give me the battle that everyone else is afraid to fight." You think your best years are behind you? Your best years haven't even started yet. You think you're running out of time. God doesn't operate on earthly calendars. His timing is perfect, and you are right on schedule for the greatest chapter of your life. But something is happening right now that you need to understand. The pressure that's been building in the chamber of your spirit is reaching critical mass. The giant that's been sleeping in your soul is stirring. And when it fully awakens, when you finally stop letting age define you and start letting anointing activate you, the world is going to witness an eruption of divine power that will leave everyone speechless. Can you feel it? That trembling in the atmosphere around your life, that sense that something massive is about to break loose? That's not anxiety, that's anticipation. That's the sound of a volcano about to blow. The giant in you has awakened, and hell is terrified. Every demon that tormented you in your youth is cowering because they know what's coming. Every lie that held you bound is cracking under the pressure. Every stronghold that seemed unshakable is about to be obliterated by the eruption of who you really are. You are not retiring from purpose, you're graduating into power. You are not fading into the background, you're stepping into the spotlight. You are not winding down, you are about to explode with the accumulated force of decades of divine preparation. If you feel this awakening rumbling in your chest, if your spirit is confirming every word I'm speaking, I need you to act prophetically right now. Type "shine brighter" in the comments. Not as a wish, but as a decree. When you type those words, you're telling the sleeping giant within you to wake up fully. You're commanding every dormant gift to activate. You're declaring that your light will no longer be hidden under the bushel of age or fear. The eruption has begun, chosen one. And when the dust settles, the world will know that God still raises up warriors in the most unexpected seasons of life. But the awakening of your giant is only the beginning, because what's about to be revealed next will show you exactly why heaven waited until now to activate the power that's been sleeping within you all these years. Dear chosen one, let me ask you something that cuts to the bone. How many Sunday mornings have you sat in that same pew, surrounded by hundreds of people, yet feeling completely alone? How many times have you looked around your retirement community, your neighborhood, even your own family dinner table, and wondered if anyone else feels the fire burning in their chest like you do? You thought you were the only one, didn't you? The only one who couldn't sleep at 3 a.m. because the Spirit was stirring something deep in your soul. The only one who felt crazy for believing God still speaks, still moves, still calls ordinary people to extraordinary purposes at 70, 80, even 90 years old. But what if I told you that feeling of isolation wasn't abandonment, it was preparation? Jesus spoke these words in Matthew 7:14. "Small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." Notice, he didn't say it would be crowded. He didn't promise you'd have company on this journey. He warned you it would be narrow, difficult, and sparsely traveled. You've been walking this narrow road your entire life without even realizing it, while others chose the wide path of compromise, comfort, and spiritual complacency. Something inside you refused to settle. When your friends retired from faith along with their jobs, you kept pressing in. When others said, "I've done my time," you kept saying, "God, what else do you have for me?" That restlessness, that holy dissatisfaction with shallow living, that was heaven calling you away from the crowd and onto the warrior's path. But here's what will shatter every lie the enemy has whispered in your ear about being forgotten, being too old, being irrelevant. You are not walking this narrow road alone. Right now, at this very moment, across every state from Maine to California, from Florida to Alaska, there are others just like you. Silver-haired warriors who refuse to fade quietly into the background, grandmothers whose prayer closets shake with intercession, grandfathers whose weathered hands still lift in worship with the strength of someone half their age. You are part of something the world cannot see, but heaven celebrates the remnant army. This isn't new, beloved. Throughout history, God has always preserved a remnant. When Elijah thought he was the last prophet standing, God reminded him in 1 Kings 19:18, "Yet I reserve 7,000 in Israel, all whose knees have not bowed down to Baal." 7,000 hidden warriors Elijah never knew existed. Think about the early church. When persecution scattered believers across the known world, they didn't disappear, they multiplied in secret. In homes, in caves, in hidden places, they kept the flame alive. The Roman Empire thought it had crushed Christianity, but it had only spread the fire. Consider the civil rights movement. Before the marches, before the speeches, before the cameras, there were hidden prayer warriors. Elderly saints on their knees in kitchens across the South, crying out to God for justice. They never made the history books, but heaven recorded every tear, every midnight prayer, every act of faith that moved the hand of the Almighty. You are walking in that legacy, chosen one. You are part of that unbroken chain of hidden warriors who've carried the flame through the darkest hours of history. But why does God work this way? Why scatter his most powerful weapons instead of gathering them in one place? Because a single flame can be extinguished, but scattered fires become an uncontainable blaze. The enemy can attack one church, one city, one gathering, but how do you fight an army that's hidden in plain sight across an entire nation? You felt invisible, but you were actually invincible. You felt forgotten, but you were being positioned. You felt alone, but you were being prepared to recognize your true family, not bound by blood or geography, but by the Spirit of the living God. Right now, there's a 7-8-year-old widow in Oklahoma praying for revival with the same fire burning in her heart that's burning in yours. There's an 5-year-old retired mechanic in Pennsylvania who wakes up at 5 a.m. to intercede for this nation, just like you do. There's a grandmother in Georgia who feels the same stirring in her spirit when she worships, the same knowing that God isn't finished with her yet. You are not a solitary flame, you are part of an unquenchable blaze. This remnant army doesn't march with earthly weapons or gather in visible formations. Its power isn't in numbers that can be counted, but in the quality of faith that's been tested and refined. You've been through the fire, chosen one. You've been broken and rebuilt. You've been pressed but not crushed, struck down but not destroyed. That makes you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness in ways that comfortable believers never could be. The world looks at your gray hair and sees weakness, but hell sees a warrior whose faith has been battle-tested. The world sees your wrinkled hands and thinks fragility, but demons tremble because they know those hands have been lifted in prayers that moved heaven and shook hell. Your testimony isn't just your story, it's ammunition in this remnant army. Your survival isn't just personal victory, it's proof that God's promises endure. Your endurance isn't just admirable, it's prophetic evidence that he who began a good work in you will complete it. This is why I'm asking you to do something that might feel vulnerable, but is absolutely crucial. In the comments below, write your story. Not your whole life, just one moment when God showed up in your darkest hour. One testimony of his faithfulness. One proof that he still moves in the impossible. Write it because another warrior in this remnant army needs to hear your words. Somewhere tonight, someone who feels forgotten needs to read about your breakthrough. Someone who's about to give up needs to see that you've walked through hell and came out praising God. Your testimony isn't just your victory, it's someone else's hope. And when we share our stories, when we let our light shine together, the world will see that the remnant army isn't just surviving, it's thriving. But understanding your place in this army is only the beginning, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you the specific power that heaven has entrusted to this final generation of warriors. Dear chosen one, let me ask you something that cuts deeper than any sermon you've ever heard. How many nights have you laid awake at 3 a.m., staring at that same crack in the ceiling, wondering if God went deaf to your prayers? How many mornings have you whispered the same desperate plea, only to be met with deafening silence? You've been living in what feels like divine abandonment, haven't you? Month after month, year after year, watching others receive their breakthrough while you sit in the waiting room of eternity. Your friends got the promotions, your neighbors got the healing, your family members got the financial miracle. But you got more silence. Listen to me carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will shatter everything you thought you knew about your season of waiting. That silence wasn't God's absence, it was God's strategy. You see, there's a difference between being buried and being planted. And for decades, you've believed the lie that you were buried, forgotten, discarded, left to rot in spiritual soil. But heaven has been whispering a different story. You weren't buried, beloved. You were planted. Think about a seed for a moment. When a farmer plants corn in the rich soil of Iowa, that seed disappears completely from sight. For weeks, months even, there's nothing visible above ground. No growth, no progress, no evidence that anything is happening at all. A casual observer might say, that seed is dead, wasted, gone. But beneath the surface, in the dark silence of the earth, something extraordinary is taking place. Roots are pushing deeper, strength is building, life is stirring in ways the human eye cannot perceive. The seed isn't dying, it's being transformed into something far greater than it ever could have been on its own. That's you, chosen one. That's your story. Every unanswered prayer has been developing your root system. Every closed door has been forcing you to dig deeper into God's faithfulness. Every season of silence has been building the spiritual infrastructure you'll need to carry the weight of what's coming. The prophet Habakkuk understood this divine timing when he cried out in chapter 2, verse 3, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." Did you catch that? It will not delay. Not maybe it'll come if you're good enough. Not perhaps if you pray harder. It will certainly come. Your breakthrough has an appointment with destiny, and that appointment cannot be cancelled by human doubt or delayed by earthly circumstances. But here's what will shock you about this silence: it's been surgical. While you thought God was ignoring you, He was actually performing the most intricate spiritual surgery of your lifetime. Every tear you've shed in the dark has been collected as sacred medicine. Every night of wrestling with doubt has been strengthening your spiritual muscles. Every moment of feeling forgotten has been preparing you to carry something so powerful that heaven had to hide you until you were ready. Think about David hiding in caves while Saul hunted him. 7 long years of running, hiding, wondering if God's promise of kingship was just a cruel joke. But those caves weren't his prison, they were his preparation. Every night of fear was building the courage he'd need to face Goliath. Every day of exile was developing the humility he'd need to rule a nation. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness tending sheep, probably wondering why he'd thrown away his palace life for nothing. But those 40 years weren't punishment, they were preparation. He was learning to hear God's voice above the silence, to trust divine guidance when nothing made sense, to lead with patience instead of rage. And you, dear warrior, you've been in your own wilderness, your own cave, your own season of divine silence. But what you thought was abandonment was actually appointment preparation. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. The silence is about to break. Not with a whisper, but with a roar that will shake everything in your life that isn't built on the rock. The prophet Haggai spoke of a shaking so powerful that only the unshakable would remain standing. Stay with me, because the shaking that's coming isn't to destroy you, it's to reveal you. Everything that's been hidden in silence is about to be unveiled in power. Every gift that's been dormant is about to explode into manifestation. Every calling that's been buried is about to resurrect with unstoppable force. The question that will determine everything is this: will you trust the silence, or will you abort the process right before your moment of emergence? If you've ever felt hidden, if you've lived through seasons where it seemed like God forgot your address, type "no more delay" in the comments right now. Let this be your declaration to heaven that you're ready to step out of the silence and into the shaking that reveals who you really are. Because, beloved, your season of hiddenness is ending, and your moment of manifestation is here. Look at yourself right now, beloved. Really look. See those weathered hands, those lines etched deep around your eyes, the slower steps, the graying hair, the way your body tells the story of 8-9 decades on this earth. The world looks at you and whispers expired. Your own mirror whispers forgotten. Society whispers your time has passed. But heaven sees something so magnificent, so glorious, that it takes your breath away. You are not fading, chosen one. You are being crowned. Listen to me carefully. There is a crown waiting for you, not made of gold that tarnishes, not adorned with jewels that thieves can steal. This crown is forged from pure fire, eternal flame that burns with the very essence of God Himself. And every single trial you've endured, every tear you've shed, every sacrifice you've made has been adding to its brilliance. Do you remember Job? After losing everything, his children, his wealth, his health, after sitting in ashes, scraping his sores with broken pottery, what did God do? Job 42:12 tells us, "The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part." More than the former part. His ending wasn't decline, it was divine promotion. But here's what will shock you. Every scar on your soul has become a jewel in your crown. That betrayal that nearly destroyed you at 65. It's now a sapphire of wisdom, gleaming with the knowledge that God's faithfulness endures when human love fails. That financial ruin that left you eating beans from cans, it's become an emerald of trust, proving you can worship God with empty pockets and a full heart. Those tears you cried at 3 a.m., wondering if anyone remembered you exist, heaven collected every drop. Psalm 56:8 declares, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. Each tear has become a flame dancing around your crown, turning your sorrow into sacred fire." Think about this shocking truth. While younger generations chase crowns of fame, wealth, and applause, crowns that crumble to dust, you have been accumulating eternal currency. Every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, every time you blessed when you could have cursed, every time you praised God through the pain, you were adding another thread of fire to your crown. The Apostle Paul understood this mystery when he wrote in 2 Timothy 4:8, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day." Not might award, will award. It's already prepared, already waiting, already burning with your name, inscribed in letters of living flame. But here's what breaks my heart about so many precious souls your age. You think your story is ending when God is writing your greatest chapter. You think you're winding down when heaven is crowning you for the final victory lap. You've been conditioned to believe that Medicare and Social Security are your highest rewards, when God has prepared a crown that will burn for all eternity. Your best days are not behind you, they're above you, waiting to descend like holy fire upon your silver head. Why do you think you survived that heart attack at 72? Why did you walk away from that car accident that should have been fatal? Why are you still here when others half your age have already gone home? Because the crown isn't finished yet. Heaven is still weaving threads of fire from your faithfulness. Every morning you wake up still breathing is God saying, the coronation isn't complete. Every sunset you witness is another day of glory added to your crown. Every grandchild who calls you is heaven, reminding you that your legacy burns brighter than you know. Listen to this truth that will revolutionize how you see yourself. When Jesus returns, He won't be looking for the young and strong to receive crowns. Revelation fear. Fear shows us 24 elders sitting on thrones around God's throne, wearing crowns of gold. Elders. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification for the highest honors in heaven's kingdom. The world sees your wrinkles and calls them damage, but God sees every line as a valley where His grace has flowed. The world sees your slower pace and calls it decline. But heaven sees the measured walk of someone who's learned to move in divine timing. The world sees your silver hair and whispers over the hill, but God sees a crown of glory earned through decades of faithful endurance. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, can you feel it? That strange warmth settling over your head. That's not your imagination. That's the weight of your crown beginning to manifest in the natural realm. Heaven is preparing you for a coronation that will echo through eternity. You've spent your whole life being told to lower your expectations, settle for less, accept decline as normal. But I'm here to tell you that you're not graduating to a retirement home, you're graduating to a throne room. You're not fading into insignificance, you're blazing into glory. The crown of fire isn't waiting for you to die to receive it. It's being placed on your head right now, in this moment, as you finally understand who you really are. You are royalty in God's kingdom, crowned with fire that will never be extinguished. If you can receive this revelation, if something in your spirit is confirming that this crown is real, that it's yours, that you are crowned with eternal fire, then declare it boldly in the comments. I am crowned with fire. But the question that will determine how brightly that crown burns is this: now that you know your royalty, will you finally start living like the king or queen heaven has declared you to be? Have you been seeing them, those numbers that follow you like whispers from eternity itself? 777 on your clock when you wake at 3 a.m., wrestling with questions that have no earthly answers. 444 on license plates when you're driving through the darkest seasons of your soul. 555 appearing on receipts, phone numbers, addresses always when you need confirmation that someone, somewhere, still remembers your name. Dear chosen one, these are not coincidences. These are not your mind playing tricks on you. These numbers are heaven's fingerprints pressed into the clay of your everyday life. Divine breadcrumbs leading you back to the truth you've forgotten about yourself. Listen carefully. When the Almighty speaks, He doesn't always use thunder and lightning. Sometimes He whispers through the language of numbers, through patterns so subtle that only those with ears to hear will notice. While others dismiss these appearances as random chance, your spirit recognizes them for what they truly are: banners waving in the wind of your destiny, road signs from eternity whispering, you are not lost. You have never been lost. But why you? Why have these numbers chosen to dance through your life with such persistence? Because you carry something precious, something rare. Your spirit operates on a frequency that most cannot access. You're tuned to heaven's radio station, while others are stuck listening to the static of this world. The prophet understood this divine communication when he wrote in Proverbs 16:9, "In their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps." Every number that captures your attention, every pattern that makes you pause, these are confirmations that your steps are not random. Even when you thought you were wandering aimlessly through life, stumbling through darkness, heaven was orchestrating every move with precision that would make a Swiss watchmaker weep. Think about it, dear one. How many times have you seen 777 during your most desperate hours? Right when you were about to give up, right when the weight of this world was crushing your chest, there it was. Heaven's reminder that completion is coming, that perfection is being worked out in your imperfect circumstances. And 444, that sacred number appearing when everything around you seems to be crumbling. It's the Almighty's way of saying, I am your stability when the earth shakes beneath your feet. I am your foundation when everything else is sinking sand. Then comes 555, grace upon grace upon grace, appearing when shame tries to convince you that you're too broken, too far gone, too stained by your past. But heaven sees those numbers and declares, my grace is sufficient. Where sin abounded, grace abounds much more. These numbers are love letters written in the language of eternity. They're heaven's way of breaking through the noise of this chaotic world to remind you that you are seen, you are known, and you are desperately loved by the Creator of the universe. But here's what will shake you to your core. These numbers have been following you your entire life. Even before you knew to look for them, they were there. In your childhood address, in significant dates, in moments of crisis and breakthrough. Heaven has been speaking to you in this sacred code since the day you drew your first breath, marking your path with divine mathematics that only those with prophetic eyes can truly see. Some of you right now are feeling your heart race because you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've seen them so many times you started questioning your sanity, but your sanity is intact, chosen one. Your perception is simply more acute than those who walk in spiritual darkness. These numbers are also preparation for what's coming. They've been conditioning your spirit to recognize divine communication because in the days ahead, you'll need to hear heaven's voice clearly. When the world grows darker and confusion multiplies, you'll be one of the few who can discern truth from deception because you've been trained to recognize God's fingerprints in the details. Right now, as a prophetic act of faith, I want you to type 555" the comments below. Don't type it carelessly. Declare it as a covenant. I walk in grace upon grace. When you write those numbers, you're aligning yourself with heaven's frequency. You're acknowledging that the same God who numbers the stars has been numbering your days with purpose and intention. And yet, beloved chosen one, these numbers are only the beginning, because heaven is about to reveal something even greater than divine communication. Something that will explain why you've always felt different, why you've never quite fit into this world's mold, and why your very existence threatens the kingdom of darkness in ways you never imagined. Dear chosen one, let me ask you something that might stop your heart for a moment. Do you remember that night in 1973 when you fell asleep at the wheel driving home from your second job? You should have hit that oak tree head-on at 55 miles per hour, but somehow you woke up just in time to swerve. You told yourself it was adrenaline. You told your wife it was luck. It wasn't luck, beloved. It was an angel's hand on your steering wheel. How about that morning in 1987 when the doctor called with your test results? Stage 3, he said. 6 months, maybe less. But here you are, 37 years later, still breathing, still standing, still believing. The oncologist called it a miracle. The insurance company called it an anomaly. But I'm telling you what it really was. Angelic intervention in your cellular structure. You've been living under divine protection your entire life, and you didn't even know it. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. The reason you survived that heart attack at 62 when stronger men didn't make it through the night that wasn't medical science. The reason you walked away from that car accident when the paramedics said no one should have survived, that wasn't chance. The reason you're still here when 3 of your closest friends from high school are gone, that wasn't genetics. You had guardian angels assigned to your life before you took your first breath. Psalm 91, verse the 11th of December, lares with thunderous authority. For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. Not some of your ways, not the easy ways, all your ways. Every step you've taken for the last 70, 80, 90 years has been under angelic surveillance. While you were sleeping, they were watching. While you were working, they were working. While you were weeping, they were warring on your behalf. But here's what will shake you to your core. You thought those moments of unexplainable strength were you pushing through. Remember when you carried your wife up 3 flights of stairs after her stroke, and you're only 140 pounds, soaking wet? Remember when you lifted that fallen beam off your grandson, and the doctors said it should have taken 3 men? That wasn't adrenaline, dear one. That was angelic strength flowing through your frail human frame. You thought it was coincidence when that sudden peace washed over you in the emergency room at 3 a.m., waiting to hear if your daughter would survive the surgery. But peace doesn't come from fluorescent lights and antiseptic smells. Peace comes from the presence of ministering spirits who were sent to comfort you in your darkest hour. Think about this for a moment. Why are you still here? Your generation lived through World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Cold War. You survived polio before the vaccine. You breathed leaded gasoline fumes for decades. You ate food with DDT, lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis, watched the Twin Towers fall. Statistically speaking, you shouldn't have made it this far. But you did, not because you were lucky, because you were covered. Angels have been raising shields around you that you never saw, deflecting bullets in wars you didn't know were being fought, turning aside diseases that were aimed at your bloodstream, closing the mouths of lions that were stalking your family line. Every morning you woke up was proof that invisible warriors had fought for you through the night. I need you to understand something that might overwhelm your soul. Every tear you cried when you thought you were alone, you weren't alone. Angels collected every drop and carried them as prayers before the throne of God. Every night you couldn't sleep, pacing the floor with worry, they were pacing with you, whispering strength into your weary bones. Every time you felt that unexplainable presence in your living room during your morning prayers, that wasn't your imagination. That was the reality of heavenly beings standing guard over your devotion. You were never fighting your battles solo, chosen one. When the doctor said the cancer had spread, heaven dispatched healing angels to your bedside. When the banker said you'd lose the house, provision angels began moving resources in the spiritual realm. When depression tried to suffocate you after you buried your spouse, comfort angels surrounded your bed like a fortress of light. Your survival isn't testimony to your strength, it's evidence of their service. But here's the urgent truth that heaven needs you to grasp tonight. These same angels are still with you. Right now, as you sit there listening to these words, they're present. They didn't retire when you turned 70. They didn't get reassigned when Medicare kicked in. They didn't abandon their post when you moved to assisted living. They're still guarding, still watching, still waiting for your next battle so they can raise their shields again. The enemy wants you to believe your protection has expired, that your usefulness to the kingdom has ended, that angels only guard the young and the strong. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Your age isn't a liability, it's an asset. Your years aren't a burden, they're a badge of honor, proving that angelic protection works. If this word is piercing your spirit right now, if you can feel the truth of divine protection washing over your soul like warm oil, then respond with a prophetic declaration. Type "I am surrounded" in the comments below. Don't just type it as words on a screen. Speak it as a seal over your remaining years. Declare it as recognition that you have never walked alone, and you never will. Because chosen one, the same angels who have kept you for all these decades, are the same angels who will escort you home when your work here is finished. And until that day comes, they stand ready to guard you through whatever battles lie ahead. You are surrounded. You have always been surrounded, and you will remain surrounded until the very end. But if angels have been protecting you all these years, what exactly have they been protecting you for? What divine assignment required such fierce guardianship over your life? Dear chosen one, what you're experiencing right now, that stirring, that awakening, it's not happening to you alone. Across this great nation, from the wheat fields of Kansas to the mountains of Montana, from the beaches of California to the streets of New York, something extraordinary is unfolding. An army is rising, not with uniforms or weapons, but with fire in their hearts and eternity in their eyes. They are scattered like stars across the night sky. Each one may seem isolated, alone in their bedroom at 2 a.m. crying out to God. Each one may feel forgotten, sitting in their kitchen, wondering if their best days are behind them. But here's the truth that will shake you to your core. Those individual stars, when viewed from heaven's perspective, form constellations of divine purpose. What looks like isolation is actually strategic positioning. You see, this isn't a conventional army. This isn't young soldiers marching in formation. This is something far more powerful, a remnant army of seasoned saints, battle-tested believers, gray-haired generals who've walked through fires that would have consumed weaker souls. While the world pushes you to retirement communities and rocking chairs, heaven is commissioning you for the greatest battle of your lifetime. The prophet Joel saw this day coming when he declared in chapter 2, verse 28, "And afterward I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions." Did you catch that? Your old men will dream dreams, not used to dream, will dream. Present tense, active, alive. But here's what breaks my heart, and it should break yours too. How many of you have been told your season is over? How many have been made to feel like you're just taking up space, waiting for heaven? How many have looked in the mirror and whispered, "God, what use am I now?" That's the enemy's greatest lie, designed to sideline heaven's most experienced warriors right when they're needed most. Listen to me carefully. You are not the bench warmers of God's kingdom. You are the generals. You've earned your stripes through decades of faithfulness. You've survived the Depression, World War II, Vietnam, 9/11s, multiple recessions. You've buried spouses, raised children, weathered storms that would have destroyed this younger generation. That's not just life experience, that's battlefield training. Think about it. Who do you send into the most critical battles? The untested recruits or the seasoned veterans? When everything's on the line, when the stakes are highest, you send your most experienced warriors. That's you, chosen one. That's why you're still here. While 20-somethings are chasing TikTok fame and 30-somethings are building their careers, you carry something they don't have: unshakable faith. You've seen God move mountains because you've lived long enough to watch him work. You've witnessed miracles because you've endured long enough to see prayers answered. You don't hope God is real, you know he is, because you've walked with him through valleys they can't even imagine. But here's the shocking truth that will redefine everything you thought you knew about your purpose. You are not just surviving these final days, you are part of God's last day strategy. Every gray hair on your head is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle on your face is a map of faithfulness. Every ache in your bones is evidence that you've carried burdens others couldn't bear. This remnant army doesn't gather in megachurches or conference centers. They meet in living rooms and hospital waiting areas, in grocery store aisles and doctors' offices. They recognize each other not by uniforms, but by the fire in their eyes. They communicate not through radios, but through the Spirit of the living God. Right now, there's a 7-8-year-old grandmother in Ohio praying for revival at 5 a.m. every morning. There's an 82-year-old widower in Texas who hasn't missed a day of intercession in 15 years. There's a 75-year-old retired factory worker in Michigan whose prayers are shaking principalities and powers. They may never meet on earth, but they are connected by something stronger than flesh and blood. They are connected by divine destiny. You thought you were alone in your burden for this nation. You thought you were the only one weeping over the direction America is heading. But you're not. There are millions just like you, seniors who remember when prayer was in schools, when families stayed together, when integrity meant something. And that remembering isn't nostalgia, it's prophetic grief. You're mourning what was lost because heaven has shown you what can be restored. The enemy has spent decades trying to convince you that your voice doesn't matter anymore, that your time has passed, that you should just be grateful for what you have and fade quietly into the background. But that's because he fears what happens when seasoned saints finally understand their true identity. He knows that one praying grandmother has more power in her arthritic hands than 1,000 social media influencers. You are not just part of the remnant army, you are its backbone. While others carry the message, you carry the authority. While others have passion, you have proven faithfulness. While others dream dreams, you know how to wait for God's timing. While others make noise, you know how to move heaven through quiet desperation. If you feel this stirring in your spirit right now, if you recognize yourself in this army of the awakened, then declare it boldly in the comments. I rise with the remnant. Don't just type it, decree it. Let heaven and hell know that you're no longer content to sit on the sidelines while America burns. But what kind of storm is this remnant army rising for? What battle requires veterans instead of recruits? What enemy demands the wisdom of ages instead of the energy of youth? Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal next will explain why every trial you've endured was preparing you for the war that's coming. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, you are not an accident walking through random circumstances. You are a divine assignment, wrapped in human flesh, marked before your first breath, refined through every trial, and positioned for this exact moment in history. Every scar you carry, every tear you've shed, every battle you've survived, none of it was wasted. All of it was preparation for the authority you now carry as one of God's end-time warriors. Second, the power within you is not diminishing with age, it's intensifying with wisdom. While the world sees your gray hair and assumes decline, heaven sees a crown of glory earned through decades of faithfulness. Your prayers carry more weight now because they're seasoned with experience. Your words hold more authority because they're tested by time. Your faith burns brighter because it's been refined in fires that would have consumed others. Third, you are part of something far greater than yourself. This remnant army stretching across America and beyond, you belong to it. Every morning you wake up is proof that your mission isn't complete. Every breath in your lungs is evidence that God still has work for you to do. But here's what I need you to understand with absolute certainty. You are not walking this path alone. Right now, as you listen to these words, the God who parted the Red Sea is still moving mountains in your life. The God who shut the mouths of lions is still protecting you from dangers you can't even see. The God who raised Jesus from the dead is still breathing life into situations you thought were hopeless. And beyond God's presence, you have a family here, thousands of fellow chosen ones who understand your struggles because they're fighting the same battles. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're warriors in the same army, carrying the same fire, answering the same call. Let me ask you this. Now that you know who you really are, now that you understand you're not just surviving but strategically positioned, what will you do with this revelation? How will you live differently tomorrow morning when you wake up carrying the conscious knowledge that you are one of God's end-time warriors? Before I release you into your destiny, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of someone who has walked with God through many storms. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. You know their names, you know their battles, you know the weight they carry and the fire they house. Tonight, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary souls. Lord, where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel powerless, activate their authority. Where they feel alone, surround them with your presence and connect them with others who share their calling. Give them dreams that direct their steps, visions that clarify their purpose, and encounters that confirm their identity. Father, I pray for their bodies strengthen what the years have weakened. I pray for their minds sharpen what worry has dulled. I pray for their spirits ignite what disappointment has dampened. Let them feel your hand upon their shoulders right now, your approval over their faithfulness, your commissioning for what lies ahead. Open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. Protect them from every weapon formed against them. Let their enemies become their footstools and their trials become their testimonies. Most of all, Lord, let them never forget they are chosen, they are powerful, they are never alone. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and unshakable love. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share how this message has impacted your heart. What stirred in your spirit tonight? What is God calling you to do with this revelation? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what another warrior needs to hear to keep fighting. If you felt the fire ignite in your bones during this message, type, "I am commissioned." If you recognize yourself as part of this remnant army, declare, "I rise with the remnant." And if you're ready to stop hiding your calling and start walking in your authority, proclaim, "The warrior awakens." Please, share this message with someone who needs to be reminded they're not forgotten. There's a fellow warrior in your life right now, maybe a friend at church, a neighbor, a family member, who's been feeling sidelined by age when God is actually positioning them for their greatest battle. Be the vessel that carries this fire to them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of chosen ones who gather here regularly to be reminded of who they are and whose they are. Remember, beloved warrior, your commission is active, your authority is real, your purpose is urgent. The world needs what you carry. Don't let another day pass living beneath your calling. Until we meet again, walk in the power of who you are. You are chosen, you are equipped, you are never, ever alone. Go in peace, go in power, go in the unshakable knowledge that heaven's army is on the move and you are leading the charge. God bless you, warrior. Your finest hour has arrived.